Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Take Quest Learning Point. I hope you all are doing great. I am Bashar. In my previous tutorial in this series of Azure Fundamental, I demonstrated that how to create Azure resources by using Azure Portal. Today I am going to start a discussion on the topic of Azure Storage Services. In this tutorial, you will be introduced to the Azure Storage Services. You will learn about the Azure Storage Account and how that relates to the different storage services that are available. You will also learn about Blob Storage tiers, data redundancy options, and ways to move data or even entire infrastructure to Azure. I can assure you all that this tutorial will make sense to you about Azure Fundamentals. The ultimate target of this tutorial is to make you prepare for the exam AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. If anyone want to be the Microsoft Certified Azure Fundamentals, this tutorial will be right choice for them to make clear the exam AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. This tutorial is derived from the Microsoft Learning Paths for Azure Fundamentals exam. So anyone can rely on this tutorial to take the preparation for the exam AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. Let's see the contents of this tutorial at a glance. This tutorial introduces you to storage in Azure, including things such as different types of storage and how a distributed infrastructure can make your data more resilient. It covers the various topics related to the Azure Storage Services, including comparison of Azure Storage Services, storage tiers, redundancy options, storage account options, and storage types, options for moving files such as AzCopy, Azure Storage Explorer, and Azure File Sync, and Azure Migrate and Azure Databox. The exam AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals includes 3 knowledge domain areas such as 1. Describe cloud concepts, 2. Describe Azure architecture and services, and 3. Describe Azure management and governance. This tutorial is the 16th episode of Azure Fundamentals series and it is a part of 3 knowledge domain. Storage account. If you want to access your data that hosted on cloud platform from anywhere in the world over HTTP or HTTPs, you need a unique namespace for your data storage. A storage account provides a unique namespace for your Azure storage data. Under this storage account, your data is secure, highly available, durable, and massively scalable. Storage account type. On the basis of storage services and data redundancy options, 4 types of storage accounts is available in the Azure cloud. Number 1, standard general purpose V2. Number 2, premium blobs. Number 3, premium file shares. Number 4, premium page blobs. These storage account types are with the following redundancy options. Available data redundancy options in Azure. Locally redundant storage LRS. Geo-redundant storage GRS, read access geo-redundant storage RAGRS, zone redundant storage ZRS, geo-zone redundant storage GZRS, read access geo-zone redundant storage RAGZRS. Now I want to discuss about the uses of each storage account types with supported service. Account type. Standard general purpose V2. Supported service Blob storage including data lake storage, queue storage, table storage, and Azure files. Redundancy options LRS, GRS, RAGRS, ZRS, GZRS, RAGZRS. Uses standard storage account type for blobs, file shares, queues, and tables. Account type premium blobs. Supported service blob storage including data lake storage. Redundancy options LRS, ZRS. Uses premium storage account type for blobs and append blobs. Account type premium file shares. Supported services Azure files. Redundancy options LRS, ZRS. Uses premium storage account type for file shares only. Account type premium page blobs. Supported service page blobs only. Redundancy options LRS. Uses premium storage account type for page blobs only. We have already been clear that every storage account in Azure must have a unique in Azure account name. The combination of the account name and the Azure Storage Service endpoint forms the endpoints for your storage account. This storage account naming convention is storage account names must be between 3 and 24 characters in length and may contain numbers and lowercase letters only. Your storage account name must be unique within Azure. No two storage accounts can have the same name. This supports the ability to have a unique accessible namespace in Azure. Now look into the table where the endpoint format for Azure Storage Services are given. Storage service Blob Storage endpoint https:// storage account name .blob.core.windows.net. Storage service data lake storage gen 2 https:// storage account name .dfs.core.windows.net. Storage service Azure files endpoint https:// storage account name .file.core.windows.net. Storage service queue storage endpoint name https:// storage account name .queue.core.windows.net. Storage service table storage endpoint https:// storage account name .table.core.windows.net. Azure Storage always stores multiple copies of your data so that it's protected from planned and unplanned events such as transient hardware failures, network or power outages, and natural disasters. Redundancy ensures that your storage account meets its availability and durability targets even in the face of failures. When deciding which redundancy option is best for your scenario, consider the trade-offs between lower costs and higher availability. The factors that help determine which redundancy option you should choose include how your data is replicated in the primary region, whether your data is replicated to a second region that is geographically distant to the primary region to protect against regional disasters, whether your application requires read access to the replicated data in the secondary region if the primary region becomes unavailable. Redundancy in the primary region. Data in an Azure Storage account is always replicated 3 times in the primary region. Azure Storage offers 2 options for how your data is replicated in the primary region. Locally redundant storage LRS and zone redundant storage ZRS. Locally redundant storage. Locally redundant storage LRS replicates your data 3 times within a single data center in the primary region. LRS provides at least 11 nines of durability of objects over a given year. LRS is the lowest cost redundancy option and offers the least durability compared to other options. LRS protects your data against server rack and driver failures. However, if a disaster such as fire or flooding occurs within the data center, all replicas of the storage account using LRS may be lost or unrecoverable. To mitigate this risk, Microsoft recommends using Zone Redundant Storage (ZRS), Geo Redundant Storage (ZRS), or Geo Zone Redundant Storage (GZRS). Zone Redundant Storage. For availability zone enabled regions, Zone Redundant Storage (ZRS) replicates your Azure storage data synchronously across 3 Azure availability zones in the primary region. ZRS offers durability for Azure storage data objects of at least 12 nines over a given year. With ZRS, your data is still accessible for both read and write operations even if a zone becomes unavailable. No remounting of Azure file shares from the connected clients is required. If a zone becomes unavailable, Azure undertakes networking updates such as DNS repointing. These updates may affect your application if you access data before the updates have completed. For applications requiring high durability, you can choose to additionally copy the data in your storage account to a secondary region that is hundreds of miles away from the primary region. If the data in your storage account is copied to a secondary region, then your data is durable even in the event of a catastrophic failure that prevents the data in the primary region from being recovered. When you create a storage account, you select the primary region for the account. The paired secondary region is based on Azure region pairs and can't be changed. Azure Storage offers 2 options for copying your data to a secondary region: Geo Redundant Storage (GRS) and Geo Zone Redundant Storage (GZRS). GRS is similar to running LRS in 2 regions, and GZRS is similar to running ZRS in the primary region and LRS in the secondary region. Geo Redundant Storage. GRS copies your data synchronously 3 times within a single physical location in the primary region using LRS. It then copies your data asynchronously to a single physical location in the secondary region, the region pair, using LRS. GRS offers durability for Azure storage data objects of at least 16 nines over a given year. Geo Zone Redundant Storage (GZRS) combines the high availability provided by redundancy across availability zones with protection from regional outages provided by geo-replication. Data in GZRS storage account is copied across 3 Azure availability zones in the primary region, similar to ZRS, and is also replicated to a secondary geographic region using LRS for protection from regional disasters. Microsoft recommends using GZRS for applications requiring maximum consistency, durability, and availability, excellent performance, and resilience for disaster recovery. Benefits of Azure Storage. Azure Storage Services offer the following benefits for application developers and IT professionals. Durable and highly available. Redundancy ensures that your data is safe if transient hardware failures occur. You can also opt to replicate data across data centers or geographical regions for additional protection from local catastrophes or natural disasters. Data replicated in this way remains highly available if an unexpected outage occurs. Secure. All data written to an Azure Storage account is encrypted by the service. Azure Storage provides you with fine-grained control over who has access to your data. Scalable. Azure Storage is designed to be massively scalable to meet the data storage and performance needs of today's applications. Managed. Azure handles hardware maintenance, updates, and critical issues for you. Accessible. Data in Azure Storage is accessible from anywhere in the world over HTTP or HTTPS. Microsoft provides client libraries for Azure Storage in a variety of languages, including .NET, Java, Node.js, Python, PHP, Ruby, Go, and others, as well as a mature REST API. Azure Storage supports scripting in Azure PowerShell or Azure CLI, and the Azure Portal and Azure Storage Explorer offers easy visual solutions for working with your data. Blob Storage. Azure Blob Storage is an object storage solution for the cloud. It can store massive amounts of data, such as text or binary data. Azure Blob Storage is unstructured, meaning that there are no restrictions on the kinds of data it can hold. Blob Storage can manage thousands of simultaneous uploads, massive amounts of video data, constantly growing log files, and can be reached from anywhere with an internet connection. To put another way, Azure Blob Storage is an object storage solution that you can use to store massive amounts of unstructured data, such as text or binary data. Blob storage is ideal for serving images or documents directly to a browser, storing data for archives or distributed access, streaming video and audio, and disaster recovery scenarios. Blobs are not limited to common file formats. A blob could contain gigabytes of binary data streamed from a scientific instrument, an encrypted message for another application, or data in a custom format for an app you are developing. One advantage of blob storage over disk storage is that it doesn't require developers to think about or manage disk. Blob storage is ideal for serving images or documents directly to a browser, storing files for distributed access, streaming video and audio, storing data for backup and restore, disaster recovery and archiving, storing data for analysis by an on-premises or Azure hosted service. Accessing blob storage. Objects in blob storage can be accessed from anywhere in the world via HTTP or HTTPS. Users or client applications can access Blob via URLs, the Azure Storage REST API, Azure PowerShell, Azure CLI, or an Azure Storage Client library. The storage client libraries are available for multiple languages including .NET, Java, Node.js, Python, PHP, and Ruby. Azure Storage offers different access tiers for your blob storage, helping you store object data in the most cost-effective manner. The available access tiers include Hot Access tier, optimized for storing data that is accessed frequently, for example, images for your website. Cool Access tier, optimized for data that is infrequently accessed and stored for at least 30 days, for example, invoices for your customers. Archive Access tier, appropriate for data that is rarely accessed and stored for at least 180 days with flexible latency requirements, for example, long-term backups. Azure Files. Azure Files offers fully managed file shares in the cloud that are accessible via the industry standard server message block SMB or network file system NFS protocols. Azure Files file shares can be mounted concurrently by cloud or on-premises deployments. SMB Azure file shares are accessible from Windows, Linux, and Mac OS clients. NFS Azure file shares are accessible from Linux or Mac OS clients. Additionally, SMB Azure file shares can be cached on Windows servers with Azure File Sync for fast access near where the data is being used. In simply, Azure File Storage offers fully managed file shares in the cloud, and shares are accessible using industry standard network protocols. Mounting Azure File shares is just like connecting to shares on your local network. Key benefit: shared access. Azure File shares support the industry standard SMB and NFS protocols. Fully managed. Azure File shares can be created without need to manage hardware or an OS. Scripting and tooling. PowerShell, CMD alerts, and Azure CLI can be used to create, mount, and manage Azure File shares. Resiliency. Azure Files has been built from the ground up to always be available. Applications running in Azure can access data in this share via file system I/O APIs. Queue storage. Azure Queue Storage is a service for storing large numbers of messages. Once stored, you can access the messages from anywhere in the world via authenticated calls using HTTP or HTTPs. A queue can contain as many messages as your storage account has room for, potentially millions. Each individual message can be up to 64 KB in size. Queues are commonly used to create a backlog of work to process asynchronously. In simply, Azure Queue Storage provides asynchronous message queue for communication between application components, whether they are running in the cloud, on the desktop, on premises, or on mobile devices. Queue storage can be combined with compute functions like Azure Functions to take an action when a message is received. For example, you want to perform an action after a customer uploads a form to your website. You could have the submit button on the website trigger a message to the queue storage. Then you could use Azure functions to trigger an action once the message was received. Disk storage. Disk storage or Azure Managed Disks are block-level storage volumes managed by Azure for use with Azure VMs. Conceptually, they are the same as a physical disk, but they are virtualized, offering greater resiliency and availability than a physical disk. With managed disk, all you have to do is provision the disk, and Azure will take care of the rest. In simply, Azure Disk Storage provides disk for virtual machines and applications to access and use as they need, similar to how they would access disks that were on premises. Azure offers both solid-state drives for higher performance workloads and conventional hard drives for your less critical business scenarios. Azure Table Storage offers a NoSQL data store for key value pairs using large-scale data sets. You can use Azure Table Storage to store petabytes of semi-structured data and keep your costs down. There are 3 Azure storage tiers that you can use to balance your cost: hot, cool, and archive. The hot storage tier is optimized for storing data that is accessed frequently, such as images for your website. The cold storage tier is optimized for data that is infrequently accessed and stored for at least 30 days, such as customer invoices. And the archive storage tier is appropriate for data that is rarely accessed and stored for at least 180 days, such as long-term backups. In order to migrate your data and information into Azure, Azure Migrate and Azure Data Box can be used. Azure supports Azure Migrate for real-time migration of infrastructure, applications, and data, and Azure Data Box for asynchronous migration of data. Azure Migrate. Azure Migrate is a service that helps you migrate from an on-premises environment to the cloud. Azure Migrate functions as a hub to help you manage the assessment and migration of your on-premises data center to Azure. It provides the following: unified migration platform, a single portal to start, run, and track your migration to Azure, range of tools for assessment and migration. Azure Migrate tools include Azure Migrate, Discover and Assessment, and Azure Migrate. Server migration. Azure Migrate also integrates with other Azure services and tools and with independent software vendor ISV offerings. Assessment and migration. In the Azure Migrate Hub, you can assess and migrate your on-premises infrastructure to Azure. Azure Data Box. Azure Data Box is a physical migration service that helps transfer large amounts of data in a quick, inexpensive, and reliable way. The secure data transfer is accelerated by shipping you a proprietary data box storage device that has a maximum usable storage capacity of 80 terabytes. The data box is transported to and from your data center via a regional carrier. A rugged case protects and secures the data box from damage during transit. We have already been clear that in order to perform a large-scale migration of infrastructure, applications, and data into Azure Cloud, services like Azure Migrate and Azure Data Box are used. But in order to move or interact with individual files or small file groups, some tools like AzCopy, Azure Storage Explorer, and Azure File Sync are used. AzCopy. AzCopy is a command line utility that you can use to copy blobs or files to or from your storage account. With AzCopy, you can upload files, download files, copy files between storage accounts, and even synchronize files. AzCopy can even be configured to work with other cloud providers to help move files back and forth between clouds. Azure Storage Explorer. Azure Storage Explorer is a standalone app that provides a graphical interface to manage files and blobs in your Azure Storage account. It works on Windows and Mac OS and Linux operating systems and uses AzCopy on the backend to perform all of the file and blob management tasks. With Storage Explorer, you can upload to Azure, download from Azure, or move between storage accounts. Azure File Sync. Azure File Sync is a tool that lets you centralize your file shares in Azure files and keep the flexibility, performance, and compatibility of a Windows file server. It's almost like turning your Windows file server into a miniature content delivery network. Once you install Azure File Sync on your local Windows server, it will automatically stay bidirectionally synced with your file in Azure. At the last stage of this tutorial, I want to review the tutorial in terms of the following topics. Storage account. If you want to access your data that hosted on cloud platform from anywhere in the world over HTTP or HTTPS, you need a unique namespace for your data storage. A storage account provides a unique namespace for your account. Azure Storage Data. Locally redundant storage. Locally redundant storage LRS replicates your data 3 times within a single data center in the primary region. LRS provides at least 11 nines of durability. That means 99.99999999% of objects over a given year. Zone redundant storage. For availability zone enabled regions, zone redundant storage ZRS replicates your Azure storage data synchronously across 3 Azure availability zones in the primary region. Geo redundant storage GRS copies your data synchronously 3 times within a single physical location in the primary region using LRS. It then copies your data asynchronously to a single physical location in the secondary region, the region pair, using LRS. Geo-zone redundant storage. GZRS combines the high availability provided by redundancy across availability zones with protection from regional outages provided by georeplication. Blob Storage. Azure Blob Storage is an object storage solution for the cloud. It can store massive amounts of data such as text or binary data. Azure Files. Azure Files offers fully managed file shares in the cloud that are accessible via the industry standard server message block, SMB, or network file system NFS protocols. Queue storage. Azure Queue Storage is a service for storing large numbers of messages. Disk storage. Disk storage or Azure managed disk are block level storage volumes managed by Azure for use with Azure VMs. Azure Migrate. Azure Migrate is a service that helps you migrate from an on-premises environment to the cloud. Azure Data Box. Azure Data Box is a physical migration service that helps transfer large amounts of data in a quick, inexpensive, and reliable way. AzCopy. AzCopy is a command line utility that you can use to copy blobs or files to or from your storage account. Azure Storage Explorer. Azure Storage Explorer is a standalone app that provides a graphical interface to manage files and blobs in your Azure Storage account. Azure File Sync. Azure File Sync is a tool that lets you centralize your file shares in Azure files and keep the flexibility, performance, and compatibility of a Windows file server. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you all have been able to take the idea about the Azure Storage Services. If you think this tutorial is helpful for learning the Azure Cloud Computing, please click on the like button and request you all to share it more and more to the persons who are searching the tutorial like this. If you have any questions on this tutorial, opinions and queries about this channel, please type this in the comment box. You also mail me. In the description box, email ID is given for you. Kindly subscribe this channel and click on the bell button so that you can get notification when new tutorial is published.